Okay, peening. Probably the most important skill in making scales is peening. I know myself, I probably broke 4 sets of scales before I was successful in actually putting a blade between two. I know my first set I was so proud of. They were beautiful. Went to peen them up and I shattered them. Second set, thought I was being ever so careful, and then I shattered them. And the story continued. Then I got some popsicle sticks and I built popsicle stick straight razors for a while. And then I got good at it. And then I went back and I was successful with my scales after that. So my advice is, it sounds stupid, but cut the head and the point off of a bunch of finishing nails, 1/16 finishing nails, and peen some popsicle sticks together. It works. It really does. Any piece of metal that you can whack with a hammer, if it will flatten without chipping or cracking, you can peen it. So don't think you have to run out and buy a pinning kit. Me, I make most of my own hardware. These spacer washers are just some brass shim that I punched with a set of punches, drill a hole through the center. They're not absolutely perfect. There goes my dog. They're not absolutely perfect, but you don't really see them, so I'm not too worried about it. The burrs, the washers for the outside, I actually saved these ones, so I'm going to reuse those ones. I do make my own. A couple ways I do those. I will punch them. I'll go over how I make them in another video. Anyway, on to peening. First thing I have is I have an anvil. I do have a 1/16 hole drilled in my anvil. If you don't have an anvil or you don't want to drill a hole in it, a lot of guys don't bother drilling the hole in the anvil. You can have a washer with a hole drilled in it. You can have a piece of hardwood, you drill a hole in it. You don't have to drill a hole in it. It's just my preferred way. So this is just the old blade out of the old double duck. You could shave inside your nose, it's so skinny, not much left of him. Yeah, it was just so rusty. That's my wife getting home. So rusty, there wasn't anything left of it. He's on to sunnier pasture. First step, make sure the blade actually fits. Yeah. Make sure your pin is straight. Put the pin through. Now, any kind of resistance, got a little bit in there, just clean it out. You could have a bit of rust, who knows what's in there. So, there, I went ahead and just gave it a little quick clean out. So I'm going to go and I'm going to put my little washer on one end. I just got him sitting here. Make sure I put it on the right way. That's the back, that's the front. Jesus, that's hard to see. Excuse me whilst I get some magnification, make sure I do have the right side out. Okay, just double checking. Okay, we'll get him through the hole. Sorry, I'm probably working off camera. He's through. This has a little spacer in there. Makes it a little harder to work with. Otherwise, I would pull these apart. Next I'm going to get my little brass spacer in there. I just get so irritated when I see the price. You know, they're $7–10 they ask for sometimes for these things. You know, a set of punches, even without punches, you can make them with just a set of cutters. Even a pair of scissors will cut brass this thin. Or a file, drill a hole through it, make your own. It's not that hard. The washers, you can, if you have 1/16 brass, or in this case I'm actually using silver solder wire, you know, whack it with your hammer a few times, pound it flat, drill a hole through it, make your own. File it round, take your time. You can make a lot of your own stuff. Then you have the pride of, hey, I made my, not only did I make my own scale, not only did I put it together myself, but I actually made my own hardware. Wow, I had that brass in there and then I just knocked it off with the blade. That was genius. Okay, let's try again. Or you can save time and just buy the kit, but maybe it's because I grew up with 6 sisters. I'm a cheap bugger. I never knew what Kool-Aid tasted like really till I was an adult, you know. My mom would make Kool-Aid with twice the water and half the sugar. But that's just the way it was. I don't think I was the only family like that. My goodness. It's going to be a long video if I don't get that in there. Okay. Yeah. Don't put the blade in backwards either. Can just imagine everybody fast forwarding, I can't even talk, fast forwarding the painful process of me putting in washers or spacers. Oh, the other thing about these spacers, if there were no spacers in there originally, don't add them. If you're reusing scales, your own scales, I wouldn't, if there were no scales in the blade originally, no spacers, I can't even think. If there are no spacers in them originally, I wouldn't go adding them, because these Wade & Butchers, you look at the hole that, it looks like it was drifted through with a piece of bar or something. I find you add a spacer in them and then try to put them back in the horn, they just don't want to go in straight afterwards. It's you know, it's like they were there for a reason. So that's just my policy. If there was no spacer in there originally, I don't add one. Can if you want. Now the nice thing about that Wade & Butcher having the big hole is you can go up a size in your pin too. If you want to go 3/32, you can. Although the bigger the pin in the center, the more chance of it sitting cockeyed are going to be. Is that in there? Okay, well, that was painful. All right, so that is in there. Got my washer on, top washer only. So, a lot of guys will tell you to cut the wire the same height as you as the wire you're using, which is 1/16. I prefer to cut it shorter, especially because you've got extra underneath. So if you cut a little shorter, you've got a little bit of backup. So I'm gonna just cheat it up a little bit. Now for cutting, I like these. You get a better view of what you're cutting, although they don't cut very well sometimes. We'll go back to these. I'll use them on the other side. Put that masking tape in my way. Probably gonna have to file a fair amount off. Oh yeah, a little bit of filing. So I like to file the crap out of it. It's got to be filed perfectly flat, but filing seems to warm it up, kind of prepare it for peening. The more you file it, the better and faster it seems to peen. So you want to file it. I mean, you can't file it too much. You have to leave material to peen. So I like it just. Let's see if I can move the camera in a little bit for you guys after I file it down. Give you a better idea. I left a fair amount up there this time. Too much. Let me get a little more aggressive file. I like to use the bigger file. It's less likely to skip off, but this one files faster. Yeah. Going back to the bigger one. Okay. Almost lost it. And when you're checking your height, make sure you've got everything pushed down. You know, they often have a tendency to lift up. If you are having a problem with it lifting up and you just can't stabilize it, like some razors, because of the shape, want to be tippier than others, I like to have it closed when I'm working on it, if at all possible. What you can do, this one it's not necessary for, but what you can do is you push down on it so that everything's 90 degrees up in the hole, and then just get one of these little spring clamps. Just open that a touch. These little spring clamps, and just when you've got it in the hole the way you want it. I'm sure that one's too short. This one's missing a foot, but it should still work. the little it's missing a foot. Put the little spring clamp on there. And then when I let go, it's going to sit exactly where I need it. Okay. So it's just a little trick. That being said, I don't need it there. Okay. File. Okay, I'm going to pause this so you don't need to watch me file. Okay. All right. That is filed. Now let's just pulley down. Sorry about the shakiness. Come in. Now, if you can get an idea on that height. Now it is just ever so slightly above. I'm going to say a 32nd, you know, somewhere between a 32nd and a 64th. Okay, not very much. When I go from the other side, you'll get it thicker on this side. The more material you start with on this side, the more likely you are to bend. Another thing that helps is if you have your hammerhead polished, your peening side. Blacksmith told me that. I believe him. So I choke up on my handle. I hold it about in the middle, and I'm more or less just lifting the hammer and dropping it, and if I do it right, it'll bounce. And it's like it bounces and then it's going to hit 2 or 3 times on its own, so kind of like, so I don't know if you can hear that, but it's actually, so it's bouncing. So that's what I want, and you'll feel it. You'll feel the difference between a hit and a miss hit right away. Actually faster than swinging for the fences. If you are at all suspect that you have bent this, stop, pull it out, check it to see if it's bent. So I'm just lifting, dropping, lifting, dropping, lifting, dropping, lifting, dropping. Now, as soon as I can lift this without it separating, you know, without, and the peen's not going to drop through the washer, I'm going to go to the other side. So I can do that now. And my little washer's gone. Must have knocked it off. Okay, I'll have to grab another washer, which is annoying. Okay, I'm going to put you guys back on pause while I grab another little washer. Okay, that washer went AWOL, so I went ahead and put one of my homemade nickel ones on that are pretty darn close to that. I was hoping to have a factory original, but I'm an idiot and I knocked it off and I have no idea where she landed, so I can go over there. Yeah. There you go. Before I do that side, we're going to check, make sure this is opening and closing. Now, just a couple points. A lot of times, this end was already peened, obviously. A lot of times I'll leave this end slightly loose. And the reason for that is sometimes you've got to adjust this end when there's no pin there. Especially on those horns ones, I find that you'll go to put your, you'll go to peen the top and it'll be sitting this way. And you'll think, oh darn, I've bent the pin. But that's not the case. It's sometimes you'll just have to give the bottom just a little tweak this way or that way. You know, they can be really finicky. So sometimes before, you know, just leave the bottom, just, you know, tighten it about 90%, leave 1 or 2 taps, get the top about 90%, open and close it, and then, you know, just work the top and bottom, keep opening and closing it, and make sure it's going to work. And you know, before you finish off all the way. Okay, I had you on pause there for a sec. I was looking down and I saw a brass shim. I didn't think anything of it at first, and I realized it was the one I thought I put in there. It must have fallen out, so I had to put it in. So now it's back in there. I simply just pulled the pin out and slid it in, and now we're back. So where I left off, I'd said, you know, sometimes you have to adjust down there, which isn't the case with this one because this was already peened as with that. I like to put this pin in a lot of the razors I make because it does stabilize. A lot of these older ones over the years, they twist and warp. This helps prevent a lot of that. So I like this horseshoe nail puller. Gives you really good visibility for where you're cutting. Although these ones are small, they don't give you a lot of sight. Okay. So again, I'll see if I can bring this up to the camera instead of moving the camera. Let's turn the light. Yeah, it's not going to help you. Yeah, it's about 64th or so. Very small. Again, when you check it, make sure everything is pushed down. Now you can go a little bit higher on this one. Make sure we're not blinding you. This time, slightly higher, not a lot, slightly. If you want slightly higher peens, bigger peens. But you don't want to go crazy on it. If you'd like your peens a little bit wider, it's a little taller than I'd like now that I got everything squished together. So I'm just going to file off more than I'd like. Watching you're blowing your dust off. I've blown my washers off. That sucks. Okay, so I'm going to stack it. Make sure you're 90 degrees. You know, you don't want to tilt it one way or the other. Choke up. I'm going to bounce it. So if you have a problem with the washer flying off, this happens a lot with like store-bought washers. For whatever reasons, they're just slightly bigger. There's a couple things you can do. One, put a piece of masking tape over it, and then just kind of poke the poke a hole through where the pin is, just so you know where to hit. That's one way. The other way is, imagine you're trying to stick the head of the hammer to the pin, so you'd just be going, try to stop it on it. It's going to bounce, but try to stop it on it. That seems to hold it in place. Kind of like that. Usually you only have problems losing the washer if you're like swinging for the fences kind of thing. Do it like this: left, drop, bounce, bounce, bounce. Okay, so I'm going to check how things feel. Okay. Still got some wiggle. We're not coming down one side or the other. It's coming down nicely in the middle. Check. It's a good size. So now what I like to do, my peens are now a good size, yet I'm loose. What I'll do, I'll file. Just file a little bit off. Check for play. This one over here is still quite tall, so I'm going to work on him. Now by doing this, you can get them quite wide, so if I want it to run this way, I'm going to file on this side a little bit, thin it there. And then as I peen, it's going to want to run that way. Again, I'm going to keep it up straight, 90 degrees. Okay, it's really starting to tighten up, so how I like to tighten mine is so that it's a little bit that way. So a lot of times there's just slight adjustments you can make just by giving the bottom or the top just a little pinch one way or the other before you hit it. So there. I also find, for me, don't know why, I think it has something to do with the taper. It helps if I finish my razor with it open 90 degrees like that. Don't know why, it just does. So it's tight. I've just got just the slightest little wiggle. So it's only going to take 1 or 2 little taps. Okay. There we go, right in the middle, right where we want it. Ooh. Okay, now little ducks have another blade to play with. Happy with that. Opens and close. I don't know how you guys like your razors. I like them so that it'll stay open on its own, but not so much that if I'm shaving, if it bumps something, it'll still move, because I don't want to bump my chest and then slash my throat because the bottom wouldn't move. I think that's probably a personal choice. I don't know if there's a right answer. Then you can polish up those pins any way you like. And that is a peened razor. I really hope this helps somebody. So yeah, so the main takeaway is just let the weight of the hammer do the work. I'm just dropping it, you know. That's how I'm holding it. Like, I'm not gripping it. I'm just holding it enough where it doesn't twist in my hands and dropping it. It's almost like a drum roll, okay? And it is actually faster than if you, so, because if you pick it up and drop it, it stays, the hammer's going to stay 90 degrees up and down. If you swing it, it's going to want to arc, okay? So, yeah, just pick it up, drop it. A little, I couldn't tell you how heavy this thing is. It's light. Polish the head. I'll do another video on how to make your own hardware, pins, whatnot. So yeah, no cracks, it closes. I like it. Yeah. Maybe I'll give it one more little tap. It seems to be just slightly loose. So yeah, oh yeah, it's dead center now. Okay, I'm done playing with it. Happy scale making.